Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Coaching Youth Hoops Podcast.
They're playing
Basketball. Here's our hosts, Steve Collins. And Bill Flitter.
All right, welcome to Coaching Youth Hoops. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know what I did last night, Coach?
What?
I went to see St. Mary's College versus Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Both highly ranked, fierce competitors. So the gym at St. Mary's College is probably the size of your high school gym. Not exaggerating, maybe a little bit tiny.
How many? And it's Division One.
It's Division One.
And how many does it hold? A couple thousand.
Yeah. How many does yours hold?
A couple thousand, less than that.
1,700.
1,500, 1,600.
Yeah. So it's. You're compact, you're right on the floor. It's not like you're up in the, nosebleeds, right? And it's so awesome, the amount of energy and electricity in the room, and you bring those two teams together because they're always in the WCC, always one or two, right?
Right.
It was a lot of fun. Came down to free throws.
Okay.
St. Mary's at the beginning of the game was like 30%. Just had an awful night at the line, but they were shooting threes at, I don't know, something ridiculous, 60%.
Right.
So that helped. Anyway, it came down to the end, a block shot and two made free throws from their starting center for St. Mary's fouled out. Backup came in, had the block shot, made two free throws. And
you always have to be able to shoot free throws to win close games.
Yeah,
that's a staple. All right. So before we jump into today's topic, Coach, give me a shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, sure. Coaches, go check out gc.com/coaching youth hoops. That you'll go there. You'll see a amazing app you can download called Game Changer. It will help you do your stats. Game film, so you can create highlight reels from that, share it with your players, and just review your game with your players. And the other thing, if a parent can't be at one of their games, grandparent, no matter where they are, you can send them a link to the game. They can see it live. Again, gc.com/coaching youth hoops, and it's free to coaches.
And then our practice.
Yeah, go to coachingyouthhoops.com. Under the product link, you will see the practice plan builder, a quick and easy way to create a season-long practice plan. Takes about 30 seconds to a minute. Just answer a few questions based on your needs. We'll spit out a practice plan for you, comprehensive. You'll get 24 to 32 practices, and even out of that, there's a lot of value because you'll never get through all the material in one practice. It's loaded with additional drills and offenses and defensive schemes and things that, again, like I said, you'll never get through it all. Go to Coaching Youth Hoops.
You never know, Coach, but maybe you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So today is talking about lopsided fouls.
Lopsided fouls. We both have experienced this situation when, you know, and this is legit, meaning, when your team, you feel like you're not committing, you're not being the aggressor, but yet the fouls count is just lopsided. I've made that argument before, and
Right.
it's like, well, stop fouling. I get that from there. Stop fouling. It's like, okay, come on.
Yeah, stop. Like, no, I mean, I experienced it last night. It was like the aggressive team had 2 fouls and we had like 7. And then I love how the officials always even it out too. Like the game's over. Well, you're even. Yes. It's like, oh my gosh, it makes me want to scream.
Yeah, that's not the point of it, right?
Right.
It's not necessarily like, oh, here I'm asking you to even out, because sometimes it just isn't even. But
Right.
Us too, we had a game where recently where we were definitely not the aggressors, but yet the foul count was they were blowing the whistle all the time on us.
Yeah.
Until halftime when the when the coach just said, "Okay, well they're not calling this, so put your elbows out and
Right.
get them off. If you hit somebody in the head, well, it's like not that we don't
Right.
want to hit
No,
anybody in the head,
well,
but it's
part
just
of
like
it.
they're on us. It's
There's
like,
2 things. There's 2 things. First of all, I think it's important to talk to the officials.
Yeah.
And all I'm asking for is if you're going to call it on one end, call it on the other end, because then it's my team's responsibility to adjust. So that's my discussion I have with the officials is if you're calling holding or hand checking down there, call it down on our end.
Yeah.
Fairness. And then the second discussion I have is tend to be with my players in the sense that you have to adjust to the whistle call. Like we played in a game last night that was very physical. Well, get more physical then.
yeah.
Like they're not going to call it, then you have to start getting physical, and you have to start doing the things that they're doing that are taking you kind of out of balance. Because at any point in the season, the whistle is going to change. I've coached long enough. I can't even. I mean, maybe 700 high school games, and I've seen everything. Right? You'll see the no call. You'll see the call. You'll see everything. You'll see. I mean, it's just you just know that it's gonna, and then you have to adjust to that as the player. And I think that's.
Well, how do you think it gets to that situation? Again, we all called fouls when maybe they weren't really fouls, right? From the sideline,
Right.
From our perspective. Okay, that's not what we're talking about in this situation. We're talking about aggressive teams that are not getting the fouls, but you are.
Right.
Why do you think that happens? Like, is there a deeper thing that's going to be,
I don't think. I mean, I think we're reading too much into it. So some of it's what you're doing too. So I'll sometimes make adjustments on the defense. I'll make adjustments on things specific to, maybe the whistle call. Like, are we?
Well, can you give an example of what that might be?
It might be going to a more of a pack line zone, or it might be taking off my full court press and going into not even a half court press. Or if they're not calling it, revving it up and actually starting to press and do some of those things where I know we can get away with things and maybe not get the officials aren't going to call some of the aggressiveness on the ball. So all of a sudden we can be more aggressive. I'll if someone gets in foul trouble, sometimes I'll even run like a 1-3-1 with the guy that's in foul trouble and put him on top. Because he's less likely to maybe necessarily get a foul on there because he's just kind of gapping and playing up above. And there's ways to hide people too, depending on how that specific whistle is going. So those are some of the adjustments I make that I think seem to work pretty well.
And what do you say to, like, legitimately say to a ref, right? That doesn't sound like you're complaining, doesn't sound like you're calling them out too much, because that could really backfire on you. It's tough.
I tend to do things as questions. Like, what did you see on that? Or what are my guys doing that they don't need, that they won't get the call? Like some of those things. Yes, because you don't want them to get defensive.
Right.
You don't want them to think that you're coming after them about a specific, call or specific. And I do. Don't get me wrong. I'm human. I will do that. But I think that I tend to have more success with definitely with the questioning of things. And sometimes they'll say they just missed it, or I didn't see that, Steve. I mean, last night there was, the whole 2-arm up thing, and the official called it last night. He was wrong. I just watched the film an hour ago. My kid was trying to come down and actually landed on part of the kid's foot, and that's why he fell. Mm-hmm. But he's doing this because he's looking at the upper body. It wasn't the upper body; it was the lower body. He couldn't come down. So, he missed it. Whatever. But he told me what he saw. I go, well, what did you see on that? I didn't see any contact. He goes, I saw it. Bubble. I go, okay. I think you're wrong. I think I said something to the effect, I'll send you the film, but
okay, here's the question. If your refs were listening to this in last night's game, what would they be saying? Like, they were that's wrong. Not the way you reacted, Coach.
Yeah, they were. I don't know. They were wrong. Anyway, it's still too raw to be talking about it, Coach.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, I actually when I was mentioned that I went to the St. Mary's game, it was with a ref,
right?
And it was at the end of the game, minute and a half left or so, close game. The center for St. Mary's commits a foul.
Okay.
Well, okay, and that was his fifth, so he's out. Okay, close game. I mean, this is a big game for both teams. I asked the ref because he was literally right there, my friend of mine, and I said, "What do you think about the play calling tonight, or the ref calling tonight?" He goes, "The only foul that I would like, it's situational. It's the end of a game. It's a close game. He wasn't agree.
I know.
Yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? He wasn't overly aggressive on the call,
right?
Or on the foul. And sometimes, as a ref, you have that flexibility in situations to say, okay, we'll let that one go,
right?
And especially when the player made the basket, right? The opposing player. So, you have those things as well, but I guess that goes along with how did you call the rest of the game? And then all of a sudden at the end of the game, you're going to let one let one go by. That's also tough. So, I mean, again, we know that refs have a tough job. There's no doubt about it.
It's a thankless job.
It's a thankless job. There's 1,000 people. There's 2,000 eyeballs in the stands plus, right? That see. Obviously we don't know the rules like the ref does. Even us as coaches, I would argue that we don't read the rule book every year like they do, and they have to, and they study.
Right.
So, it's a tough job, and it's not always going to be fair. But we also don't, where I always get bent out of shape is, I don't know. You teach your girls to play, or players to play defense with their hips, right?
Right.
Hands to the heavens, show your hands, really, body someone up. Don't let a driver just get to the basket. And then all of a sudden they'll call a foul.
Right.
Right? And you're like, well, then the players look at you like, well, what am I supposed to? This is what you told me to do, coach. Like, I did it, right? And again, there's situations where they don't do that, and they say they do that. I get that, but look at film. Let's assume that they did everything. It's those calls where it gets difficult,
right?
To teach, right?
Yeah.
Because you taught it. This is what they were supposed to do. They did it, and they still get called for it. So,
yeah. I know.
Okay,
I think that's
so let's sum this all up, Coach.
Sum it up.
Lopsided games. Lopsided calls on games. What do you do?
I think
coaches three big takeaways.
The takeaways is you got to communicate to the officials and talk to them about what they see or what they don't see. I think that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your players adjust talk to the players about adjusting on lopsided things, and then I would take advantage of it. Like, you as a coach have to read it. Like, if they're letting them play, then you maybe have to rev it up a little bit. If they don't let them play, then you got to rev it down a little bit. I think you as the coach has to control the levers a little bit.
Interesting. Yeah, so you literally will call a timeout and say, okay, they're not calling this stuff. Get a little bit more aggressive, right? You know, if they're not calling the hand checks, you know, touch them 1 or 2 times to slow them down a little bit if you're getting beat, as an example.
Right. I think those are the two things that, those you definitely have to do as the coach. I think for sure. All right. Till next week, Coach.
Till next week, Coach.
Let's shout out the Game Changer.
Yeah, gc.com/coaching youth hoops. Go check it out for all your stats and video needs. It's free to coaches.
All right.
gc.com/coaching youth hoops.
Boom.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.